All right, good morning, everybody. Tell you what, crazy weather, right? I was expecting to see a lot of white out there, but it's just wet, so I can't complain about that. Hey, welcome, everybody. I want to thank you so much for being here. Also want to thank our online viewers for participating with us online. I want to remind you guys, too, if you're here today, we do have our prayer room available. If at any point in time you do desire prayer with someone, we do want to make that available to you. But in the meantime, let's stand, let's sing, and let's worship together in spirit and in truth.
Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my tomb till I met you. You called my name. I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness to your glorious day. watch him work it for your good. He's not done with what he started. He's not done until it's good. So hello peace, hello joy, hello love, hello strength, hello hope, it's a new horizon. Hello peace, hello joy, hello love, hello strength, hello hope, it's a new horizon. So, if you're ready for a breakthrough, just open up and just receive. Yeah, 'cause what is pouring out, nothing you've ever seen, you've ever seen. So hello peace, hello joy, hello love, hello strength, hello hope, it's a new horizon. Hello peace, hello joy, hello love, hello strength, hello hope, it's a new horizon. Sickness not my story. You are. Heartbreak's not my home. You are. Death is not the end, Jesus. You are. Fear is not my future. You are. Sickness not my story. You are. Heartbreak's not my home. You are. Death is not the end, Jesus. You are. So hello peace, hello joy, hello love, hello strength, hello hope, it's a new horizon. Hello peace, hello joy, hello love, hello strength, hello hope, it's a new horizon. Fear is not my future. You are. Sickness not my story. You are. Heartbreak's not my home. You are. Death is not the end, Jesus. You are. So hello peace, hello joy, hello love, hello strength, hello hope, it's a new horizon. Hello peace, hello joy, hello love, hello strength, hello hope, it's a new horizon. Yeah. You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope that is broken. Great are you, Lord.
Sing it again. You give life.
You give life. You are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only. You give life. You are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord.
Sing it out. It's your breath.
It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only. All the earth and all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord.
One more time. All the earth.
All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise, pour out fall, still your love fought for me. You've been so, so good to me. When I felt no words, you paid it all for me. You've been so, so kind to me. And all the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me now, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. No wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. No shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. No wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow. No shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. No shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. No wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. 'Cause I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Amen. Please be seated.
Well, good morning, Hosanna. It's so nice to see everybody. This morning, for you that are at home, there's like a sprinkling of people here, and you're probably the smartest one, cozy in your jammies at home. But it's so nice to see everyone, and special welcome to our visitors today. While we wait and see if we're going to have rain, snow, or ice. And the kids wait to see if they're going to have school or a delay and decide whether they're going to do their homework or not. And from experience, I would say you should absolutely do that. But for those of you that are not thrilled with the weather, you should know that spring is exactly 26 days, 3 hours, 35 minutes, and 27 seconds away. So we're very close. But before we get to the offering, let's say a prayer. Will you join me, please? Dear Lord, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for this moment to be calm and still in your presence, whether we're all together or at home. Be with the offering, Lord, multiply it, and send it out into this world for the things that matter to you. Thank you for all the people in this room and abroad. Keep us safe and close to you in this next week. In your name we pray, amen. Well, today is the last day to bless Arvid Pedersen's ministry with our Change for Change offering, which are in the back of this, or in the back of the, I'm having a building, sanctuary. I might have not gotten enough sleep last night. In the back of the sanctuary, he is an ambassador for Compassion International, so that's a really good thing to support. And if you're at home and you still want to donate, I'm sure you can do it through our online pay service or reach out to the office too. The adult class, Retreat from Busyness, will not meet this morning while you are actually taking a retreat from busyness at home. And the potluck meal will be postponed to a further time. So if you brought chili, and I see a couple of you did, just go ahead and grab some spoons from the kitchen and you can pass it around. Just kidding, Deb, that didn't happen. Almost lastly, the mental health support group will meet following the service next Sunday, March 1st, in room 105, which is the Godly Playroom. And the topic for that meeting will be the function of neurotransmitters in the brain. So you can join them if you need support, or if you have a family member that needs support. And lastly, spring is now 26 days, 3 hours, 33 minutes, and 43 seconds away. Here's Joanne and Tony.
Thanks, Kristen. Hey, you gave me an idea. If staying at home is more attractive because we can stay in our jammies, what if we had a jammy Sunday?
You know, we used to do that on New Year's Eve. Like we talked a long, long time ago. Some of you probably remember. We would just come in our jammies and bring hot chocolate and cookies and stuff and tell stories. And yeah, we could do that again.
Don't take this wrong. Some of you I don't want to see in your now. Well, we will see.
I won't say what I was going to say in response to that.
Jeff says it's mutual, and and he's right. Last Sunday, we had, after the service, a baptism. And we took video. So we're going to wait and show that to you next week, in part because I forgot to do anything about it afterwards. But we'll get a few more here. And those of you who are online but will be in the building with us next week will be able to enjoy that live with us. But that was awesome. I always love those things. Well, let's jump in today. Almost everyone loves music of some kind. We disagree on sometimes on what constitutes good music. Musical tastes shift wildly from one culture or generation or person to another. So the music that I grew up with, that I enjoyed in the 80s, when music was at its best ever, was just as different from my parents' music as today's hits are from mine. The nice thing is, in the 80s, we at least had good hair. One of those is me in my prom. No, I'm just kidding. Now, every now and then you find an exception in this pattern of music being changed from one time or another. A song gets handed down every once in a while from generation to generation. And sometimes the title changes a little, or the lyrics shift a little, or it gets reimagined in a new genre. I love those songs that you hear where somebody reimagines something that's old, it's been around for a while. But those rare songs survive because they tap into something universal in the human spirit. And I thought of one this week as we were preparing for this message. It's the song Wayfaring Stranger, or Poor Wayfaring Stranger. Anyone know that one? Okay, there's a few out there.
I don't.
Joanne didn't know it. I
What
love
is that?
the blues, the old folk songs, and this one's been done in. Anyway, some version of the song has been echoing around since the early 1800s, and it had antecedents in Europe. It's been recorded by hundreds of artists across almost every imaginable genre and background. Some of the most famous voices in history. You got to hear Johnny Cash sing this. This song uses biblical language, speaking of the longing to go over Jordan in order to go over home. And what wayfarer does not ultimately dream of home? And I think that song endures because it speaks to a fundamental truth. Life is a journey. Faith is a journey. That's the theme we've been exploring all year. These past 2 Sundays, we've joined the biblical journey, what we've been calling the ancient road. And we started by noticing how a promise that was given to 2 courageous wayfarers, Abram and Sarah, rippled down through their descendants for generations, and how it still speaks to us today. So today we're going to continue that story. We're going to keep walking down that ancient road as wayfaring strangers ourselves. So last Sunday, we talked about people who literally went over Jordan on their way over home. We followed the Hebrews, who had escaped from slavery in Egypt and were led by Moses on that long, winding wilderness journey toward the land that had been promised to their ancestors. Moses died on Mount Nebo, overlooking the Jordan River. He didn't cross over himself, but God had already raised up Joshua to lead the people through those waters and into the promised land.
Yep. And then after the death of Joshua, the shared song of the Israelites, and we're going to be using a song theme because the title of this message is the Song of the Wayfarers.
And we will break into song on occasion, just randomly.
I'll listen while you do that. You know the song. So after Joshua's death, the shared song of the Israelites, it didn't just fade away. It fell into a long, dissonant silence. The 12 tribes dispersed to the territories that were assigned to them in the desert. Some went to the sun-scorched plains of the Negev, some to the dense thickets in the north of Galilee, some in the rocky coastal foothills. But the land that they were moving into wasn't empty. As the opening chapters of the book of Judges reveal, they were moving into a tense and often violent overlap with the Canaanite tribes who were already there. These were descendants of Noah's grandson, Canaan, which is why they're called Canaanites, and then also later with the Philistines, because they came a little further on in the story. But they were living as wayfarers in the land, dwelling in the shadows of fortified cities that would take them generations to inhabit. So over the next 300 years, they shared, the shared song of Israel was reduced to a collection of discordant voices, right? Each tribe just began looking only to their own interests. So the way that they had been walking together through the wilderness, right, it dissolved into a series of disconnected trails, and they became strangers to one another. Sometimes they were even rivals with each other. And yet still, when one tribe was threatened, some of the nearby kin would rise up to their defense. Because there wasn't yet any centralized authority to call on. They were just separate tribes doing the best they could. Over time, some local and regional leaders began to rise up, and that began what some call in history the cycle of the judges. Okay, this is perhaps better understood as the ongoing cycle of the people falling asleep to the song of their shared calling from God, only to be startled awake, to the cold sting of war. Only then, when that's settled, to fall asleep again. And then they just kept repeating the cycle over and over and over again. The cycle of the judges began with Othniel, who was Caleb's brother, one of the spies who originally went into the Promised Land. Othniel delivered the Israelites from the north, from the king of Aram, which is modern-day Syria today. Then next came Ehud. You gotta like some of these names. Othniel, Ehud. Ehud was a left-handed assassin, which matters, I guess, because it's right there in the scriptures. Left-handed assassin who delivered them from the rule of Moab in the east, which is Jordan today. So you can see, so north, east, and then there was Deborah. We have our own Deborah right here. Deborah sat, it says, she sat as a judge beneath a palm tree right in the heart of the land, in the central portion. And she's called a mother in Israel. And she rose up at a time when many men were afraid to walk the main roads. That's how dangerous it was. And again, the tribes were still only a scattered people then, and they were being crushed at that time under the wheels of Canaanite King Jabin's 900 iron-wheeled chariots. Remember, this is the Iron Age now. And like Pharaoh's chariot wheels were wood. These are iron. And 900 iron-wheeled chariots, that's the ancient equivalent of a modern tank division today. In that moment of deep discord and fear, Judge Deborah didn't merely sit under the tree and offer some legal verdict. No, she calls the people to trust God together. Then she goes with them into battle, and then she sings a fierce song of miraculous victory in Judges 5. Judges 5 is one of the oldest songs in the Bible, one of the oldest portions that we have. And we're trying to situate this journey, right? This song, and this happened around the 12th century BC. It's a long time ago, which is a good reason for us to remember not to be reading everything back into history and into the 12th century BC people as if they know everything we know today. But anyway, this song, it is a loud roaring jubilation. Deborah is reminding her people that when the heart of a godly leader is stirred and the spirit of the people rises up to meet it, the world can be changed for goodness. Maybe we need to remember some of that today. Deb, sing. No. Deborah, then, she called the tribes back together, and she sang them into a new shared rhythm. But the awakening was brief, and they soon drifted back to sleep, back into that same old pattern as judge after judge arose, one after the other, like Samson and Eli. Their lives hummed. I'm not sure that they sang real loud, but they hummed. And on one hand, they were humming with devotion, but on the other hand, they were just failures when it came to hearing and following God, and failures for the people who were following them. See, it wasn't until Samuel, the last judge and the first prophet, that the melody shifted into a new key. He was the one who finally anointed the kings that the people had been begging for years. First, you know the story, he anointed tragic, paranoid Saul, who did great damage to himself and to others. But then, here comes Samuel again, and to choose David, the shepherd psalmist, and anointed him And David's the one who finally brought the nation, the tribes together in a unified song. But through all these years, these centuries, through all of this, something more than a unified identity was missing, right? The Ark of the Covenant. Remember that gold chest that held the ancient stones of the law, which was the contract that God had made of covenant relationship with these people, right? The Ark of the Covenant, it didn't even have a permanent home. For centuries, it just sat tucked away up in the highlands of Shiloh. And then the Philistines came in, they captured it, and then Israel went after them, and then the Philistines returned it. They fought for it. They got the ark back, and then what did they do with it? They just put it in a little house, a private house sitting on a hilltop near Jerusalem for more than 20 more years. And by the way, that hilltop where the ark was sitting, actually Tony volunteered for an archaeological excavation there when? 2019.
2019. And I got picture as proof.
There he is.
Yeah. We were raiders of the lost ark.
So what it comes down to is, here's this ark they're willing to fight for and then forget about. It's just a forgotten relic. It's just something from the past. You know, it's a relic of a people who'd forgotten God and themselves in the journey. The real change, though, began with David when he finally captured Jerusalem. And when he did that, he knew that the nation needed more than a king to bring them all together. He knew that it needed God at the center. So he actually went to bring the ark home. And we know the story, right? What is that movie? I'm seeing Richard Gere dancing, right? Which ages me. But yeah, I wouldn't want to see him dancing today. But all to say, David went to bring the ark home. It's on a wagon as it crests the hill of the city of Jerusalem. The music began. And 2 Samuel 6 tells us that David himself led the procession, stripping off his royal robes down to his linen ephod, and he danced before the Lord with all of his might. He leapt and he spun in raw, just unrefined worship. And it scandalized a lot of people who were watching, who preferred more dignified kind of religion, including his wife, Michal, who looked down on him with disgust from a window on high. That dance was the opening note of a new era. It was signaling that God was no longer a distant memory, but was a living fire at the center of his people again. God's presence was now the focal point of the nation, not just survival. And later, when Solomon's stone temple replaced David's canvas tabernacle, which is where he placed the ark, and then he was the one who was gathering up all the resources that were needed so that Solomon, his son, could build the temple. But when all through it, David's one wild dance became the foundation for a new national rhythm. Because what they did was, during this time, they rewrote some of the laws and they added some new ones, and the law now required that every man, although families, whole families often joined in, but everyone who was called, they were called to leave their homes 3 times each year. So and at harvest time, they were to be, attending 3 Passover and 2 of the other tabernacles and some of the other large festivals, but 3 festivals. They were required to leave their farms. And sometimes it was harvest time. So they'd have to leave their harvest to walk, maybe dance, on the limestone paths to Jerusalem. to celebrate the goodness of God. So we're offering you in this series wondering questions about, okay, it's good for us to know the history, the biblical journey, but what does this mean for us? Well, some wondering questions. Just notice which resonate, through the message. In what ways have you drifted into an isolated faith and have forgotten that you belong to a larger tribe, which is now the body of Christ? Where does the ark sit silent in your own life? I mean, is there a central truth about who God created you to be that you've tucked away in some quiet room somewhere and forgotten about? What might it look like for you to dance before God, letting go of the need to look dignified or composed? I like that question. Too much looking for dignity and being composed, and maybe a little wild dancing. I felt like doing that this morning. Worship was wonderful.
Feel free. Well, let's go. That's the big story. Let's look at what this might have been involved for ordinary people. Let's imagine a week before Passover in some small village in northern Israel, and the morning mist is still clinging to the hills of Galilee, and this family ties the last knot on a sack of grain, and they set out for that 4-day, 3 to 5 days, but they cut it in the middle, 4-day journey to Jerusalem. Oh, by the way, they were there for a while, then they'd have the 4 days walk. This is a walk back. And as Joanne was indicating, this is an act of trust. To leave the fields during harvest was to risk their livelihood. To leave home was to risk their security. But they went because the song of God was calling them home. Well, what does that mean? Some went, doubtless, out of a sense of obligation. This was the law now. The law of Moses required them to do it. Some doubtless went because of pressure from family and community. This is what we do. What do you mean? You're not going to stay home? No, you come along. But we know that some went because they truly wanted to be with God, whom they believed dwelt in that temple in Jerusalem. And we hear this, we know this because we hear some of this longing in the Psalms. Psalm 42, my soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When can I go and meet with God? This is not when can I stop working and have prayer time. This was when can I go to Jerusalem to the temple and meet with God? These things I remember as I pour out my soul, how I used to go to the house of God under the protection of the Mighty One. And I used to go with shouts of joy and praise among the festive throng. I used to be there. I haven't been there for a while. I'm missing it. I'm missing God. I want to be there. And then the psalmist reassures himself, and it reassures the rest of us. But put your hope in God, for I will yet praise him. I will get there again. It's hard for us to imagine their sense of distance from God. Their belief that God lived and stayed in a building in some faraway place. And we know that's not true, but they didn't. And so they were willing to make that long, dangerous journey just simply to enjoy his presence. And maybe they're an encouragement to the rest of us here to not squander that intimacy that we enjoy with God wherever we are, whenever we can. Many of them would have loved, my joke is, many of them would have killed, probably not human beings, but, small animals or something. They would have loved to have known that God was so near and so accessible. It didn't involve all of that journey, that kind of physical journey. Well, as those wayfarers stepped out into the main road, out into the ancient way, the background music of their people begins to harmonize around them. And at first what we hear is the sound of one family's footsteps as they wander down that path. But at the first crossroads, they likely merged with another family from the next valley, maybe the next tribe, maybe somebody they've never run into before, because for most people, their lives were confined to a very, very limited space. And then maybe another family from another village. Somebody else joins them, and then many others. And soon you have this group of people, this crowd, walking together in some sense with the same rhythm, and their feet and their lungs and their hearts are beating with this song of remembering. That song common to all of them. And if we listen for it, it's a song common to us as well. When we remember that we are not isolated, that we need not remain divided. We journey together with a common calling toward our common destination because we share a common God. We can imagine them a little bit more. We can imagine wealthy merchants, perhaps from the coast, dressed in purple linen, walking stride in stride with dirty shepherds whose skin is burnt as dark as their goats. People that probably never would have been in conversation anyplace else. And maybe their children are playing together, chasing each other through the dust, running between the pack animals. And at night, they camp together, and the Judean hills are dotted with the orange glow of 100 campfires, and you can hear the low hum of voices sharing stories. Tell me about yourself. And the cool thing is that there is no more rank on this road. The dust of the trail turns every robe the same shade of gray on the end. This is the only time these people see one another, and they get to know one another. They share bread and water skins, and as they talk, those tribal identities start to break down. It's not anymore, I am from Ephraim, I am from Benjamin. The road becomes a great equalizer. Now, I speak of this with some passion because I found this to be true when I was a pilgrim in Spain. A couple of my adventures have come up in this story here about being on journey. But I'm out there, and for the first time in my life, no one cared about my profession, my politics, or my paternity. None of that mattered when you're out on the Camino. We were all peregrinos. People come together from all over the world to walk an ancient path together, first name basis. They knew I was from America because I talk funny, but that was about all that mattered. And I would suggest to you, recommend to you, encourage you that we can be the same in the rest of our lives. We don't have to wait to go on pilgrimage to encounter that. If we dare to risk it, to allow our journeys, particularly our faith journeys, to equalize us, to open us up and to give and receive hospitality that we might otherwise shun, to see ourselves and others with new eyes. This is indeed the beauty of pilgrimage. It invites people who have lived in isolation, or there's some of my, forgot to show you that, some of my friends on the pilgrimage from different countries. This is the beauty of pilgrimage. It invites people who have lived in isolation to find that shared rhythm and that common song. Those Israelites on their way to Jerusalem realized that despite their different tribes, they belonged to the same God. They weren't merely neighbors. They were wayfaring companions with one another, sharing the same road. And together they were being sung awake as they strode on toward the hills and they climbed toward Jerusalem. So the wondering questions are probably pretty obvious, aren't they, in a time such as ours? Who are you traveling with on your own ancient road right now? Who have you invited to walk alongside of you that maybe looks and thinks and acts a little differently than you do? Boy, that's an adventure. It's also a risk. And if you have risked that, have you ever found that your differences with others faded a bit when you were both focused on the same destination? I told you my story. I've had that, and not just in Spain, again and again. There is something that holds us together, and we need desperately to rediscover that and refine that and focus on that in our generation. And maybe there's an invitation for us there, at least something to ponder.
Yeah, and so, the journey continues, and finally they're approaching Jerusalem. And this is where the shared song meets the struggle. That city, Jerusalem, it sits on a limestone ridge 2,500 feet above the sea. To get there, you have to lean your body into the mountain. It's very steep. It's a climb. The air grows thin, the sun glares out from the white rock until your eyes start aching. Your sandals are slipping, your breath comes in short, ragged gasps. And this is where the songs of ascent begin, where the Wayfarers become a choir, all singing with one voice because they've been on the road together. And what they're singing are the words of 15 special songs, Psalms 120 to 134. It's the official soundtrack for the ascent, the climb into Jerusalem on these three journeys, festival journeys. These psalms are meant to be sung in rhythm with their steps, right? The singing starts at the base of the mountain with Psalm 120. This is a gritty, honest song. I call on the Lord in my distress, and he answers me. See, this is the sound of a traveler letting go of all the inner noise and the concern about what they're leaving behind in order to focus on God alone, in order to focus on where they are, not simply where they've been and where they're going. As the path narrows, the cliffs are looming overhead. The rhythm changes there. For centuries, these high places, the high peaks of Israel, they were fearful places to be because they were hiding spots all over for bandits. But also, there were sites for pagan altars everywhere in the high places. So as these pilgrims climb, right, they're looking up at these high places, but they're boldly singing the song that was written for them just for this place in the journey, Psalm 121, which begins, I lift my eyes up to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. It's a different way to look up, not in fear, but in faith. Knowing that beyond those cliffs, beyond those high places, is the God who created it all and sees them. Well, they keep going. Their feet in cadence with the words. So it's almost like left, right, breathe. Left, right, sing. Left, right, pray. Left, right, trust. Goes on. The Lord is your keeper. This is still Psalm 121. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade on your right hand. The Lord will keep you from evil. Do you hear? It's music. It's meant to be sung. He will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time forth and forevermore. So they're singing, and then they come, up to the heights, and they're rounding the final bend of the Mount of Olives. And they can see the city, and the golden roof of Solomon's temple catches the afternoon sun, and it is exhilarating. So their exhaustion vanishes. They pass through the massive timber gates of the city, singing Psalm 122. I rejoiced with those who said to me, let's go to the Lord's house. This puts this in context, doesn't it? Now our feet are standing in your gates, Jerusalem. Jerusalem is built like a city joined together in unity. Wow, just that word alone. Because they're walking in that way, in unity. Inside the temple, the ascent songs reached their crescendo. Between the outer and the inner courts, there were 15, because there are 15 psalms, 15 songs, as they're climbing. And then they come into the temple, and there are 15 semicircular stone steps that lead up toward the inner sanctuary. Levite musicians, priests who were musicians, stood on each of those stairs, playing the music of each psalm as the priest climbed each stair toward the altar. The higher the priests moved, the louder the music rose, until the priests and the people, the words and the song, became one staircase of sound, celebrating God's holy presence. No wonder when they were back in their villages, like Tony was saying earlier, they would say, I long to be in the presence of the Lord. This was visceral for them. And then in the shadow of these massive pillars with the steps and the priests and the music and the song, they hear a warning from Psalm 127. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. It is, I think, even today, the ultimate lesson of the journey. You can build the most beautiful temple in the world, biggest church, thousands of people. You can build it. Build the most beautiful temple in the world, and you can walk 60 or 100 miles to get to it. But if God isn't the melody of your life, it's all just noise. As the sun sets, the priests begin their night watch. And the blessings of that last psalm in the series, Psalm 134, that blessing is sung. And the wayfarers realize that the road hasn't just led to a building. It's led them to the very heartbeat of God. And that psalm talks about how good and beautiful it is to dwell in the house of the Lord. Wondering questions for you on this part of the journey. What mountain are you currently climbing? And what song of the Spirit is helping you on your way? And if you don't have a song, perhaps it's an invitation for you to listen again to your heart and listen for the melody of the Spirit there. And what does it sound like when your soul finds its true pitch? Do you know, we're using all of these words that are musical terms, but still, the true pitch, the reality of who you were created to be in Christ. What does it sound like when your soul finds its true pitch in the presence of God? Some things to consider.
Mm-hmm. Well, as Joanne has noted, when that choir finally reached the summit, after a while, they didn't find there a tent, that old wilderness tabernacle that they had brought with them. Not anymore. They found a temple.
Yeah.
And it was a glorious one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, David had been a man of constant motion, a shepherd who knew the rhythm of the wilderness and the clash of battle. He didn't build this temple. But his son Solomon was a man of the city, a man of peace, a man who loved stability. So he took that wild song of his father's era and he turned it into an orchestral masterpiece. Mm-hmm. He dismantled the tabernacle and raised a massive structure of white limestone. Had cedar from Lebanon, the best wood you could get in that time, gold from Ophir. It took 7 years to build. And it was well constructed. It lasted 400 years and took a lot of work to tear down. Mm-hmm. It was a masterpiece of acoustics and architecture. Mm-hmm. A place where the glory of both God's reign and Solomon's kingdom were meant to be seen and heard by people from the whole world. And people came from all over to marvel at it, not just pilgrims.
Yeah, even the Queen of Sheba from Africa came to visit Solomon.
I want to see this thing. I want to see what you're doing here.
Yeah.
But there is a danger, because this seems also nice. This is so very human. Let's build something big and powerful and beautiful and show off a little bit. There is a danger when the song is confined to a written score, or the divine to a building with walls.
Yep.
We've been talking throughout this series about the Celtic tradition once in a while. They're reminded it from that tradition that God is both host and guest. He is the host who welcomes us to himself, and he's playing the host there, and he's the guest who can never be confined.
Yes. Yep.
When we build containment walls, we risk falling back into that deep sleep Joanne was talking about earlier, thinking that because we've housed God, we now control the song.
I like that cartoon.
Isn't that awesome?
Tony does the PowerPoint usually, and it surprises me sometimes on Sunday morning.
Yeah, I want to meet Rodney.
Yeah, so true.
Many have fallen, not just Rodney, for that temptation over the centuries. We worship our small, tamed, box-in idols, and we call them the name of the God of the Bible. Mm-hmm. And we think that we know, because we have this little box, that we know the untamed, unboxed, unfathomable, unfettered God of all creation. Mm-hmm.
He's wild. Well. He's a wild God like David.
Yes.
Yeah.
As C.S. Lewis said, yes. Mm-hmm. We would do well not to repeat Rodney's mistake. Mm-hmm. Solomon, in his wisdom, at least understood the paradox. When the priest brought the ark into the inner sanctuary of the temple for the first time, the cloud of the presence of God filled the room. It was so thick that the ministers could not even stand to perform their duties. Where am I? They can't see because of the fog. We had some fog this week. This is thicker than that. Mm-hmm. They're aware that something has entered the building. Mm-hmm. So Solomon stood before the people, and he prayed a wondering question of his own. He looked at the gold and the cedar. He looked at what he had made or had directed to have made, and he asked, but will God really dwell on earth? Mm-hmm. The heavens, even the highest heaven, cannot contain you. Mm-hmm. How much less this temple I have built. If all the universe is not big enough, then this little building isn't going to cut it. Yeah. And God bless Solomon for at least seeing that. Mm-hmm. This is the great aha moment of the pilgrimage. The temple was never meant to be a cage for the song. It was meant to be an amplifier. Yes. Yeah. Its purpose wasn't to hold God in, but to carry his voice back to those valleys and the highlands and the seacoast. Mm-hmm. And maybe Solomon realized in that moment that the building was what the Celts would call, we've used this phrase the last 2 weeks, a thin place. Yeah. One of those locations where the veil between the ordinary and the eternal grows very, very transparent. Yeah. And he was the first that we know of to wonder whether this building was the only such thin place in the world. Mm-hmm. And we all know that it's not. We know that answer. That those places sneak up on us everywhere we turn around if we're looking. Mm-hmm. The danger for those people, and for us too, is to start loving the building more than the voice. And we're using building metaphorically here, not just this particular structure. When we start to think that the song only happens on Sunday, or only inside the sanctuary, or only when the worship music is perfectly in tune, when everything is fitting just right. I remember when I was a kid, there was an old guy in our church who used to yell at us all the time, "Don't run in church." Now, that's wise for kids not to trip themselves and others and everything, but there was this sense that there was something more holy about that room than there was the space outside of it. Mm-hmm. And we now know that's not true, that God's holiness pervades all of it. Yep. And he's busy resacralizing everything, and not just rooms where people come and meet like this. Mm-hmm. The temple was designed to wake us up so that we could recognize the song everywhere. Yes. Everywhere. In a snow-covered landscape like we'll have this evening. Yeah. In a stranger on the road. In our hospital beds, in our prison cells. And in the quiet of our own homes. All over the world. Solomon's prayer reminds us that the God who is seen through the limestone and the gold is the same God who moved the pillar of fire in the desert tent. Yep. He is his God, the song that is always escaping the walls that we build. Mm-hmm. Indeed. So, we ask you to wonder once again, have you ever tried to cage God? Keep him in a specific hour of your week, a specific place in your heart, a place in your life, a specific corner of your heart. God, I'll give you this part, but don't touch this over here. What walls have you built that might be muffling this great song in your life?
Yeah.
And what would, the other flip side of this, what would it feel like to realize that the highest heaven cannot contain him, and yet he chooses to sing his song within you?
Yeah.
You can't contain him, but he comes to dwell. We become the temple.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. And that is incredible.
Yep. Well, sadly, this golden age didn't last in the history of the Israelites. The heavy stone walls of Solomon's temple, which they felt so permanent. But eventually they crumbled under the weight of a nation that went back to sleep, and this time into a very deep sleep. And by the time the Babylonian Empire crested the hills of Judea, the people had forgotten that the building was only a thin place. They'd started to worship the stone instead of the spirit, as Tony was just talking about, and the song became a hollow performance. They didn't do it intentionally or maliciously. They just got distracted, like we all do, right? They started worrying more about the fertility of their soil than they did about the state of their souls. Around 960 BC, after Solomon died, the kingdom fractured into Israel in the north and the kingdom of Judah in the south. The northern kings, fearing the tug of the temple on their people, discouraged. They actually started discouraging, don't make the long trek to Jerusalem, just stay here. Over time, the journey began to feel like a burden. So the people settled for convenience. They started worshiping on the nearby high places of the Canaanites. And proximity to the old altars eventually led back to the old gods. And slowly the noise of the culture drowned out their common song until Israel was singing entirely off key. But God kept speaking. God kept speaking through the prophets. Because God, we're singing off key a lot in the church today. And God just keeps helping us to find the pitch again. Their voices became the breath by which the Creator kept whispering his songs to the hearts of the wayfarers. These prophets were basically singing a melody from God that was meant to remind them of who and whose they were. The prophets were always pointing toward the horizon. They sang of what God had done, yes, but also of what God was going to do. Jeremiah was promising a brand new covenant someday. I'll write my law in your minds and write it on your hearts. I'll be their God. They'll be my people. And then Isaiah kept pointing to a suffering servant king who was going to redeem them once and for all, as well as the whole world. And the prophets kept reminding them that this song had to be sung in harmony with one another. This is not a solo. So the prophets fiercely called out the exploitation of the poor, of the widow, of the orphan, of the stranger. They condemned priests who turned temple worship into a profit center. They criticized kings who hoarded power just for themselves. Sometimes they even carried the song across borders, like Jonah, when he didn't want to, but eventually did, walk into Nineveh. Because although God had a special covenant with the descendants of Abraham and Sarah, yes, he never lost his love for the rest of the world. Israel was meant to be a living, breathing model of shalom, of God's perfect wholeness and peace, truth and justice, offered to a world that was exhausted by war and lies and abuse. The prophets were inviting God's people and us, even today, kind of into a kind of Lent. All right, not simply the ritual of ashes that we began a few days ago on Ash Wednesday, but the deep spiritual posture that those ashes symbolize. See, these ancient wayfarers, they didn't know the cross was coming, but they understood the posture that it required to look inward, to strip away distractions, to refocus on what matters most, and to refuse to settle for a superficial pretend faith that looks good on the outside, but is, like Jesus said, dead bones on the inside. Instead, the prophets challenged the people to live their faith out loud so that the next generation wouldn't simply inherit old hymns. They were fine. We can still sing the song, I Don't Know, the poor wayfaring stranger. Tony can sing that if he wants to. It's not that it was bad. It's just that we just need to not just inherit the old hymns, we need to write new songs of our own. And so Psalm 96 commands this. Sing to the Lord a new song, for he has done marvelous things and continues to do that every moment of every day of our lives. So wondering questions. Perhaps some of these are resonating because this is a journey, just noticing. What comfortable distractions might God be inviting you to strip away so you can more clearly hear his song? And what is God inviting you to leave behind today so you can step into the abundant life that he's promised you, which is far more than physical abundance or financial abundance? There's an abundance that is present in the midst of the worst set of circumstances. What do you need to leave behind in order to experience that?
Well, the song was sung like this for over 600 years.
Yeah.
The Israelites as a whole didn't go anywhere during this time. No mass migrations to or from any neighboring or distant lands. But they were still on the journey. They journeyed upward to meet God up on the heights in Jerusalem, and they journeyed forward to get a glimpse of what God had for future generations. They journeyed inward to hear the melody in their own hearts. And then in 586 BC, the unthinkable happened. And as Joanne told us, the walls of the Jerusalem temple were breached by the Babylonians. The cedar beams were set ablaze. The gold was stripped and carried away to the east. The people were marched in chains across the desert in an unanticipated, unwanted journey outward.
Yep.
Away from their homes, away from that land of promise, and into the foreign plains and the rivers of Babylon, where they sat down and wept. This is the moment of the minor key. This is the song of lament.
Yeah.
And this is the song for next week.
Yes.
So we'll leave you hanging there and pick up that story then. For now, having heard this broad sweep of Old Testament history and the journey of those people, we've been inviting you all along to ponder your own journey, or our journey. Because
Yeah.
God, I believe, has called us to be a prophetic community in a time like this,
Yeah.
to be people in a journey singing a song that is both ancient and ever new.
Yeah.
But let's summarize some of those questions that God was asking of them and asking wayfarers like us in our own time. Who are you traveling with right now? Have you found that your differences of others faded away when you were focused in the same destination? In what ways have you drifted into an isolated faith? Have you forgotten who you and others are? What would it look like for you to dance before God? Anybody want to get up and do it? Letting go the need to feel dignified or composed. What mountain are you climbing? What song is keeping your stride? What does it sound like when your soul finds its true pitch in the presence of God? What walls have you built
Yeah.
that might be muffling this great song in your life? What would it feel like to realize that he chooses to sing his song within you? And what comfortable distractions might God be inviting you to strip away so you can more clearly hear his song and step into the abundant life he's promised you? We don't have much time. This is a long swath of history, as I said, and we talked for a while in it that we did want to pause and give those questions. But in the 5 or 10 minutes that we have here. We do want to invite some conversation. If you're a guest with us today, here in the building or online, we do not assume, Joanne and I do not assume we're the only voices that can speak about what God is up to. And so we make the mic available, and we always invite you guys to speak into that. How might you respond to these questions?
Or
what
maybe
encouragement you might give?
Or maybe something that's kind of clicked or that the Spirit might be saying to you today. Stories. We've got a mic up here.
Rick has the mic, and he will dance his way to you if you raise your hand. I promise.
But
that
he'll
on
leave his
behalf.
clothes on. What are you thinking? Here. Jeff. He's dancing.
Shall we dance?
Thank you.
Thank you for dancing that over here. Hey, I love the imagery that you put on the screen with the journey, first the family and the intersections, a couple people traveling together, then the crowd and differences and all of those things. And for me, that's an important phase of my life right now because, as many of you know, I come from a different denomination. I was a denominational leader at another time in my life. And have experiences within my own tribe of journeying with some brothers and sisters in a little collective group that is on this same journey. But to come here and to, of course, I knew Tony and I knew Joanne slightly before I came here, but to meet Rick and to hear Caleb preach and other people that come from all these different places. And I don't know if you realize this, but we're all coming. This is not like a denominational tribe that's here, I don't sense. No. I know Tony's background is different than Joanne's background, which is different than my background. And from Tony and my history, though, with our denominations, there was a time when the Germans got together in Otterbein's barn and said, "Wir sind Brüdern," which meant we are brothers.
And now we are very much here, like, I'm sorry to interrupt you, like an 80s rock group. We are a motley crew.
Well, that might be true, although I'm not quite a fan of that one. But there are some rock groups that Tony and I hold in concert together. How's that for a pun? But anyway, just to say all that to show the beauty of what God is doing behind the scenes of what we attuning our hearts. Going back to the musical metaphor, tuning our hearts into a harmony that walks together, and come thou fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing thy praise. I heard Leonard Sweet use this at a camp meeting one time, talking about this idea of that the Spirit resonates, and when we find the frequency of the Spirit at work, we come in harmony with one another and community. So I say all that just to affirm, very strongly affirm, that picture of that sojourn along the Song of Ascents into Jerusalem.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah. Yeah, this place is full of nonconformists. I'm a primary one of those. But also, we're full of those who, over the years, over the decades, people who we kind of like to think of ourselves as positioned in the place on the journey where people are leaving the trail, where they're going away from the church, where church doesn't make sense to them anymore, Often that's like second half of life, some dark night comes and they don't know what to do, and they don't know what to do with all the old theology and all the old songs. And all to say, we very intentionally for decades were positioned right on the edge. So we try to just provide a place for people to come, to be able to talk with one another and listen to how, we hear one story about the Bible, or we hear one story about God, and we assume it's like that little box, Rodney's little box. That is the way it is, and everybody else better agree with us, or else there's something wrong with them, or they're going to hell or something. I don't know about hell. I just know that there's always more to God, and that we need each other, and we need to have conversations like this here, but also all around, to be able to listen each other into the bigger story. Because everyone here knows something. Like, you know something from your journey, Jeff, that the rest of us don't know. And we need to hear what you know, and then you listen to what we know, and then together somehow more space is created for God to be honored and blessed in, and for God to work in. So, yeah. We're probably past time now, aren't we? But, yeah, a little bit more, because you journeyed today to get here this morning. But, yeah, maybe, does that resonate? It probably does, because you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here. We got used a long time ago. It doesn't happen as much anymore. But I can see right out, into the foyer, into the parking lot. And I've watched a lot of people who would sit in the back. They'd get a feel for what was going on here, and somewhere, it used to be because a woman stood up to preach long ago. But I would watch. They'd get up and walk out into the parking lot. And you know what we do? We bless them. We bless everyone, because they're just looking for a place where they feel like they can belong. And so we bless them on their journey. And we're all blessed on ours. Amen? Well, we're going to close this morning with a blessing that's kind of like Deborah in a way. It's an honest, gritty, modern psalm. We'll put it that way. By someone who knows what she's talking about there, Kate Bowler. It's called A Blessing for When You Just Need to Put One Foot in Front of the Other. Because that journey, it can be glorious, but it can also be so exhausting. Sometimes you just want to sit on the side of the road. A blessing for when you just need to put one foot in front of the other. She says, "Oh God, the thought of trying for a new and improved me just makes me tired. I'm barely getting anywhere, so draw me closer with a different vision. One that sees I don't need perfection. I need love. I need freed from the expectation that life should always be better. Everyday stressors, the bills, the pressure, the dependence, the existential fears about the future, and the worries of right now. I am threadbare. Blessed are we, remembering that the world is not ours to shoulder alone. Help us put one foot in front of the other as best we can. God, today, give us strength to go on. Give us hope to see a future. Give us joy to make it not simply bearable, but beautiful. And we'll do that together. Amen?
Amen.
Amen. Blessings on you all in the midst of the snow and whatever may come, because we still don't know exactly what's coming. But blessings to you all.
We're going to get somewhere between 2 inches and 20 feet. That's as much as I know.
Yeah.